So hopefully the ambient noise won't be too much, because I'm walking home and there's a few main roads close by, and there's a chance that the noise will end up there. Anyway, I wanted to chat about the NHS, the National Health Service. Recently, I've had calls to go to hospitals because members of my family have been they've had the need to go to hospital, and I've been to see them. So I suppose I'm once again having first-hand interface with the National Health Service. And my work experience, I'm a business consultant, so someone like me, I will look at the buildings and the people. I will notice all the interactions, and you take a point of view. Now, over the years also, I look at everything and have an idea what the operating cost might be, and how the business mechanics all work. Plus I'm aware of all the other information pieces about the National Health Service and the challenges that it faces. So it is experience. It is interesting experience. Anyway, my first reaction is most definitely the NHS, the National Health Service, is absolutely fantastic in that it exists, and in the UK we have this social service that's supplied and paid for by the taxpayer, and it's one of the great things about the United Kingdom and about the British government, and about being English, living in the UK. We have this fantastic health service, and straight away I think of the United States, that essentially has a paid for service. And so what that means is you can only get ill if you can afford to be ill, and in the UK you don't really have to think about that. Most people simply hope that they never get ill, they never need the National Health Service. But we do know that with an ageing population, our requirement of the National Health Service is going to be larger. And sure enough, if you look at the information, you'll find that a lot of hospital activity is dealing with age-related problems. So essentially, hospitals do have a lot of older people in them. And for me, I've always viewed the health service delivering two main things. Number one, accident and emergency, and then I was about to say normal patients. That is not the correct word. Patients. So people that have an health concern, and that they can't do it at home by themselves. So you've got the NHS, and then you've got everything. You've got the accident and emergency, and everything else. And what is amazing about accident and emergency is that it's so vital to society. It's like the ambulance service, which I suppose is in the same vein as the health service. You've also got the fire brigade, and you've also got the police. And so if you think about it, if society doesn't have a health service, the police and the fire brigade, things could get very difficult for the individual, very quickly. These services are absolutely paramount to society's safety and wellness, and also the individual safety and wellness. Yes, and also the police service. I think I mentioned them. So we have the police, ambulance, fire brigade, and hospital. And You know, each of these agencies is absolutely fantastic. And guess what? Every single one of them is paid for via taxation. It is paid for by the man in the street. And, you know, once again, I wanted to point out, you know, this is a great thing about our democracy and how we are set up as a society. Now, you know, this is a big subject, and really today I'm only chatting about the National Health Service because in my recent experience, and remember, well, don't remember, you might not know, but last year I actually had to visit the accident and emergency service myself because I had a hairstyle injury. And it was so serious, they whisked me there. But in actual fact, that's not what happened. I collapsed. I just collapsed. It was a Saturday morning. I was making some fresh coffee, and I collapsed. And I managed to crawl to the front door. I opened it, and then a member of the public saw me and thought, that chap looks like he had a good night. And then when he approached me, he could see that, yeah, there was something wrong, and dialed 999, our emergency services, and they were there within moments. And what I may do is just going to a car was coming out of the driveway, and so the ambulance was there, I think less than 60 seconds. So I don't know what the guy said, but the emergency services were there very quickly. And they very quickly threw me into the back of an ambulance, and you know, I was in A&E, so that was quite serious. Long story short, I was fine, but it was quite serious. And anyway, I survived. And but recently, my experience with the NHS. So I've been visiting family members, and you know, so I'm interacting with the NHS staff and the administration and all that sort of thing. And you know, once again, I have to say, members that, you know, people that work in the NHS are fantastic. The nurses, doctors, you know, all the professional people there, they're impeccable. That they all do a great job. There's no doubt about it. You know, the problem isn't with the healthcare staff. The problems is around management and something that's going on within management. Now, if you watch the news, often you will hear health trusts being mentioned, and bodies that are essentially the management capability behind hospitals, and you'll hear of, you know, things not going very well or problems taking place, and there's a little bit of finger pointing, and you know, so what you end up doing is trying to rationalize you know, that you hear and what you see. And so in one respect, you're witnessing the hospital deliver a fabulous service, and the staff in the hospital, the nurses and doctors are you know, fantastic. They're absolutely brilliant. But then you're hearing of all these problems in the background. Now, I don't think the general public are really told, you know, what's going on. You know, what are the challenges? You know, in my opinion, things like an aging population, financial cuts are two big factors straight away, where you can see it causes problems. And then also there are some agencies out there that would quite like the NHS to be privatised. There are many people, there are organisations and individuals that believe that privatising a health service like the American model is the way forward. Now, I suppose from one respect, you know, you could put together an argument to support that. I bet you, you know, if I put myself out to the highest bidder, I could create a very good business plan for a privatised NHS, and I could sell it to you like this. But that is not what I think, because I do find myself thinking that agencies like the National Health Service, the Fire Brigade, the police, they do need to be public-run, government-run organisations, because they are part of society. And we need lots of transparency and lots of best management practices in operation to deliver these services. And I'm not sure, well, that's what I think. And I don't think the health service being privatised benefits society, because all that really does, it simply puts cost and inevitable costs onto the individual. So for the normal person, the normal man in the street, today it's hard enough. People do not need more financial pressure than they've already got because of our democracy. Now, so when I come across these agencies, these political actors, these companies that quite clearly have a vested interest in privatising the NHS, I feel like I can smell a rat, and I feel I can smell greed and sleight of hand political movements. And also, I imagine that if I looked under the bonnet, I would find actors already there in place, doing their utmost to privatise different parts of the NHS already. Now, I suppose privatising the canteen and refreshment service within the NHS, that's not exactly a bad idea, because the NHS main business is looking after people. It's not serving tea and coffee, and also tea and coffee is a different service, and so there's an argument to have something like that privatized, and maybe cleaning the blankets and other related services. But the general running of the NHS and the NHS itself, should it be paid for by the individual? Now, the only one positive thing that I can think of is that it would make an individual a little more accountable of their general health, because the person would think, hold on, I better stay healthy because I have to pay for it if I'm not. So that is the only one clear positive I can see with having a privatised NHS. It's the only one. But privatising a health service means that you are one of the casualties. Straight away, it victimises poor people. It simply says, if you are poor, you probably aren't going to get any health care. So all the preventative treatment that you may get, that you might need, you will not get unless you pay for it. Once again, putting this massive cost on the individual. So I don't think it's hard for me to offer an opinion that having a government-run, government-funded, taxpayer-funded NHS isn't a good thing. It's quite clearly a very good thing. So we, the general public, we really want to know what the big decisions are. What is the thing that makes what are the major factors that these NHS trusts are dealing with that makes them make decisions? I've got a horrible feeling the pressure for a privatised NHS is much bigger than we are aware of. And I think it's something that we need to be discussing more in a government realm, in a political realm, but also the general public, because ultimately the general public are the stakeholders of the NHS, and I think something is happening beyond our sight and beyond our control, and it's something we have to be aware of. Anyway, at that, I'm getting very cold, so I'm going to say ciao, and I shall no doubt come back again. So bye for now.